All right, now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is a guy that used to be my second favorite Vandy quarterback. He is now my first favorite quarterback because I thought about it. I'm like, I don't think Jay Cutler has provided me the joy that you have. Number one Vandy quarterback in my power rankings.
Love that. Hey, I feel like Jay just kind of went off the map. He's more of like a just wants to be off the grid kind of guy now.
And you're very much on the grid.
Yeah.
I feel like you probably have to debate whether or not you want to post a certain amount on social media and stuff, just because when you've got like over 1 million Instagram followers and you get the advertising deals, you probably have to find yourself dialing it back, which I imagine that's just the best problem to have.
I don't like social media. Greg McElroy told me this a couple days ago. He quit it. He hasn't been doing it for the last months, and I'm sincerely so jealous. If I didn't have to, and I'm very grateful for social media and like aspects of it, but if I didn't have to do it, I would love to not do it.
I saw on social media your top 8 quarterbacks. How
do we feel about that?
I feel good.
I feel like it was too controversial. I feel like the first 3 or 4, they're kind of those guys going to be at the top, and I feel like the next 5 or 6, you could go any which way, and I feel like you could justify it. So I don't think I ruffled too many feathers if you're not in Knoxville.
You have Weigman at 5. You have him higher than anybody that I've seen. I thought I was the biggest Conner Weigman fan because I think I had him at 6 in my first quarterback rankings, and you had him at 5th. Why do you love Conner Weigman despite the fact that he spells his first name incorrectly?
Oh, valid point. Didn't even think that. I honestly could have put him higher. I think I could have justified in my own head at least putting him ahead of Jalen Milroe. Now that would have been a little less on production and what he did last year, and more of a prediction of who he's going to be this next year. But I kept going back to the tape, and I kept going back to the Miami game from last year. And I get it, they lost 48-33, whatever it was. But I'm not sure if you take any singular performance from a quarterback last year and you'll see more big-time throws under pressure in one singular game. It was truly uncanny. I started just marking plays that I want to go back and maybe break down at some point, and I get 15 deep. He was under fire that entire game. Back foot would hit the ground. There'd be somebody in his face within a second and a half, and he'd be ripping a seam right on the money in tight coverage. So I think he has all the skills, and that was kind of the first time, especially in that system under Jimbo, where I was like, wait a minute, they're actually kind of trying to play to his strengths. He's playing in gun. The ball's getting out of his hands quicker. They're moving pre-snap. So it's kind of like, wow, they could have something here. So he's got the skill set. He's got the demeanor. And I think now with Colin Klein and what he's going to be able to do and actually try to make it tough on some defenses before the ball gets snapped, I think he's going to have a massive year. And I think he's very, aside from you and me, very underappreciated and overlooked.
I feel like I'm just in the back pew, just hand up, I'm feeling the gospel. I'm feeling it right now because I always point to that Miami game with Weigman as the point that I really became sold on him. I thought he could become that guy, and then I thought that just brought out so many of these characteristics that you're waiting to see. And if you tell me that A&M is actually going to run pre-snap motion and move guys around the full are they going to run a hurry-up offense as well? That's going to be a full-time thing and not a battle? Are you telling me that's going to be the case?
I didn't know that was allowed in College Station. It hasn't been unless Bama's been there for the last 5 years. It's the only time they seemingly cared about doing anything that would create an advantage before the snap. But to that point, too, even everyone goes back to, he threw 2 interceptions. People that just stat chase in that game, the first interception, the dude fell down. It was actually a freaking dime that would have been right in between 3 defenders on a dig route. The guy falls down, hits the safety that's 5 yards behind him, and then the second interception was last play of the game, just throwing a jump ball. Those mean nothing. He didn't make any mistakes that game, and their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, so they were in a shootout in a wet game that they just couldn't keep up with. But he's got such a quick release, and that game really opened up my eyes to how accurate he was and how much he anticipated, because I hadn't really seen that. You knew he had a good arm. You knew he was mobile enough to make some plays. You knew he could run the RPO a little bit. But his anticipation, especially over the middle of the field when guys were in tight coverage, that to me, I was like, okay, you add that to physical traits, now you get somebody that can be special.
If he can stay healthy,
yeah,
I do think he has all SEC type upside. What about A&M as a whole? Do you believe that A&M should be in that 12-team playoff conversation year one of the Mike Elco era because of the fact that they have all their big games at home? Or do you still look at this team and say, nah, they're probably going to be 2-3 years away?
No, I think they can be in that conversation. I really do. I think they still have, You'd love to have Evan Stewart, no doubt, but they still have a lot of talent on that side of the football. Ruben Owens, I think, is a guy that's going to have a breakout year. I think Moose Muhammad's a guy that has been just on the back burner, and I think there was some politics going on there.
Very much.
So he's a really good player for your third wide receiver in that group. So I think they have a ton of talent, and I think Elco is a guy that has proven that he can turn things around quickly. And especially on the defensive side of the ball, I don't worry about that at all, but especially with this injection of Colin Klein. And the thing that impressed me about Colin when you go back and watch K-State is the core concepts are always there, but he, game to game, he did a really good job of adjusting their scheme, which again is a foreign thing to me thinking about A&M. So I'm just like, whoa, okay, you got somebody that can do that, and you have the talent that A&M has always had. Like, that's a recipe to, not going to run the table, but they could go 9-3, 10-2 with a couple big wins and a good strength of schedule, and they could be in that conversation.
The guy that you are probably going to get the most heat about for that graphic, if you read the comments, which you should read all of the comments. That's just the way to do it.
I like reading comments. Honestly, it's funny, and this is, you know this well. It's something that I think that has been a maturation process in just me being on TV and in this world. Is I love fans that get heated about shit, because that's what makes college football fun. Like, if everybody just agreed and didn't want to talk shit, it wouldn't be very fun. So are you talking about Tennessee?
Of course I'm talking about Tennessee. Why do you hate Nico Iamaleava? We have to pronounce the last name every single time. We have to say it with our chest. But did you just not want to have Nico on that graphic because you thought, I don't want to butcher the spelling of his last name in this email that I'm going to send to somebody in the social department?
Remember now, I'm a Tennessee hater and have been forever, according to X. How quickly they forget that I, now looking back and regrettably so, ranked Milton like in my top 3. Or
I hated that and gave you so much crap for it.
But you win some, you lose some. Lost that one. Okay, admitting it. But they quickly forget that I was real on. They loved me last year. They hate me this year. Nico was interesting. I kind of lumped Nico and Jackson Arnold together because I think they're very similar. They are uber talented, and I think Nico is going to have a massive year. Go back and watch that Iowa game. Like, the thing that stood out, 2 things. He reminds me of Hendon Hooker in the way that he moves through the pocket. He's so fundamentally sound. His feet travel with his eyes everywhere he goes. So in that game, he was so accurate to the perimeter because he's just so fundamentally sound. And in those plays, I think a little bit even more so better than Hendon Hooker was able to, is to really be dynamic with his feet. Hendon could get up through the pocket and hurt you. Nico can escape around the side and beat you with speed and run away from you. That's what's going to make him special. The reservation I had was just attacking the middle of the field, and that's what Tennessee couldn't do last year. That's the most important thing in this offense. I know running the football is important, pushing the ball vertical, but the reason they spread you out is to create space in the middle. And Milton couldn't hit the broadside of a barn on a slant route, and there was 2 or 3 throws a game that if he just puts it here instead of here, it's a 60-yard touchdown as opposed to an 8-yard gain or an incompletion. And if Nico can do that, sky's the limit, and he's going to be a guy that can be in that top 5 conversation. I just wasn't ready to put him ahead of a Garrett Nussmeier, who came into an SEC championship game against Georgia and threw for 295 yards, and made some mistakes, but has played in big moments, including this last bowl game. I just wasn't ready to put him ahead just based on solely projection and playing Iowa and using his feet well and being a good passer. Like, he's going to be great, but obviously I hate him until I rank him number 3 or number 2.
Are you skeptical of Jalen Milroe in this Kalen DeBoer offense?
Very, and like I said, I don't. That didn't mean any shade with that. I just have reservations about the fit, right? And that's kind of where I was thinking I maybe could put Conner a little higher. Milroe is no doubt the worst nightmare to match up to game plan against. But when you watch Washington's film, the thing that stands out, aside from Penix just being an alien, I mean, his arm is unbelievable. Like, he's ridiculous. But how much he played on time and in rhythm. So, yes, he makes those deep throws. Yes, he gets the ball out of his hand quick. But the intermediate stuff, it's one hitch, balls out. It's back foot hits the ground, balls out. Like the glance routes, the dig routes, the deeper slants. Milroe holds on to the ball too long. And that's a fact. Held on to it third longest in the entire FBS. Some of that's great because he holds on to it, can run around and make a play. Love it. But he's going to have to be able to play on time more frequently in this offense. And that's just something I haven't seen out of his game yet. And I just, not that he can't do it, but in this offense, you got to do it consistently because DeBoer is going to ask a lot from you to keep those sticks moving through the air, not just with your feet. So that's when I go, let's wait and see.
Counterpoint, if you played quarterback, obviously, I remember, you probably are at a disadvantage if you don't have a center that can snap a football.
Oh, my God.
What if Jalen Milroe simply has a center who snaps the football and he's the same exact player?
Can I just tell you one of my biggest TV regrets? So we're at the Rose Bowl, and before these shows, we make these cut-ups. And usually I make 3 or 4 cut-ups, and we use 2, right? I mean, we use our best. The show gets heavy, and you end up scrapping a few. I literally had made a cut-up of a bunch of snaps at Milroe's knees and how his eyes were taken away from the defense. And I wanted to talk about how detrimental, and it may seem like a small thing to the average fan, but how much of a nightmare it is for a quarterback. You know how hard it is to play the position, let alone now when you're doing this, and the linebacker was at 5 yards, and now when you look up for the second time, now he's over there at 9 yards. And it speeds everything up. So I completely agree with you that if he's getting regular snaps, he's going to be much more consistent at being faster decision maker. And that was a much bigger issue than I think anybody thought it was last year. So I wish I would have ran that before the Rose Bowl, because it ended up being one of the biggest plays down there at the end when he gets snapped at his ankles once again.
If you were a quarterback in this league currently, let's just say that a north of 30 years old Jordan Rodgers got a chance to sling the old pigskin a little bit, and if you could pick one SEC wide receiver to be able to throw to, who would be your guy?
I think it'd be Trey Harris for me.
Oh, not Luther Burden.
Yeah. I was going between those two, and I'll tell you why. I only say this because he reminds me more of a Jordan Matthews. Because, and I'm very humble right here, I didn't have the strongest arm. I wasn't the most accurate. But I'll take some chances. And if I got a guy that can get up here and get one, if it's a little behind or whatever it is. I loved J-Matt when I played with him, because no matter where that ball was, he was going to go get it. And I trusted him, and he trusted me. So it'd look covered sometimes. I'd be like, he's down there. I'm gonna put it on him. Trey and Jackson have that kind of relationship. So Luther is unreal. And I think what's most impressive is how Kirby Moore moves him around. Everyone in the world knows where they're going with the football, and somehow they still get it to him. So it's tough to say I don't want to throw to Luther. I'd love to throw to Luther, but I love the bigger body type that can just go up and snag it.
The Ole Miss playoff buzz, where are you at with that? Where are you at with this being a year for the ages, the type of season that Ole Miss fans have been waiting for, basically post-Freeze era?
I'm driving the bus. I'm telling everybody to hop on. I think I'm very bullish on not just Jackson Dart, not just this offense, but the last 2 years, talking to Pete Golding, the thing that he kept telling us was, I just don't have the size and length I need at certain positions to run the scheme that we need to be at. And now, not that they haven't been running his scheme, they're just not all the way there. When I was at the spring event, it wasn't a game this year, he's like, look, we finally have the bodies, the length I need on the back ends, on the outside, to like do this thing the right way. And I think that's what's scary about this team, is that the additions that they added, that gives them – now they're dynamic at the D-line. They're dynamic on the back end. I think Trey Amos is one of the biggest gets they got on the back end. That's what's scary, because I think the offense is going to be better, or as good, even if they're as good. If the defense is a little better, those Alabama games maybe end up a little bit different. Those games that they came up short maybe go their way, and they're gonna make a deep run because of the size they have at offensive line and the skill they have at defensive line now, I think.
So what's driving the bus? Is that winning a playoff game? Is that getting to the round of 4? Like, let's get you on record with an official prediction.
Love that. And I hadn't thought it through all the way, but they're going to get to the round of 4. What would that mean? Does that mean they win 2 playoff games, or 1 maybe, 2, depending on where they're at, right? No, I think they make a deep run into the playoffs, no doubt. And I'd hammer that right now. 11-1 in the regular season for Ole Miss with a loss to Georgia. Yeah, I'm trying to think on the top of my head. What's their other? They have LSU at LSU. I think they're going to be better than LSU. I think LSU is going to be better than people think too. I think LSU is going to be really good. But yeah, I could see 11-1 absolutely. But that Georgia game I think is going to be different as well, just because of the bodies they have. I mean, that was the one game last year they really got pushed around. I don't think they're going to get pushed around. I'd still lean towards Georgia sitting right here. But I think Ole Miss makes a deep playoff run.
You were there for Texas getting introduced in the SEC. You got to see what this spectacle was. Pitbull in the house. Who got more love, you or Pitbull?
Pitbull, are you kidding me? There was one point in the end of that show where it looks great on Instagram when you're showing the crowd, but all their backs are turned and they're facing Pitbull. They're not looking at our stage. Looked like it did from afar. But no, it's, you know what, I love Austin. We spent a lot of time in Austin, had friends in Austin. So I'm excited about, and I've never been to Norman, so I'm really excited about getting there too. But I think just the tradition, the passion fits right away, and the teams are going to have success right away despite what we think. So I'm excited about it.
Does JoJo root for Texas?
No. So her brother went to A&M. She went to Baylor. So she doesn't really roots for the Cowboys. That's about it. She's not really a college football girl. She likes to come and tailgate and have some fun, but she doesn't really have a dog in the race.
Are you guys caught up on DCC?
What's DCC?
Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders on Netflix?
No. We're more on the Love Island right now. We go through Love Island UK, and they're on the Love Island USA. We're just reality TV junkies.
I can't imagine you being a reality TV junkie. I've never heard of you being associated with anything related to reality TV.
I just love it because I'm like, I cannot believe I did something like this. Like, what was that 27-year-old thing? I mean, very grateful, obviously, for a number of reasons. But just like, that kid was an idiot. Somehow it all worked out.
I actually think your edit was pretty good. The only thing that was bad about your entire season was your hair. Just cut the hair. Like you've totally done the 180. You've been able to cut the hair and recognize. If you had come to ESPN, SEC Network with hair like that, they would have said first day, Jordan.
They did. They did. So here's a great behind-the-scenes story. So my second really audition after, because I had the offer and they wanted me to come in, and then I told them I was doing the show, and they're like, okay, we're gonna wait in case you go look like a jerk or something else. And so when I came back to Charlotte, I literally flew from Thailand, from the finale.
I've heard this story, but please tell it.
I was tanned up, and my suits, though, got lost, so I had a jacket and a T-shirt, and my hair, if I would have pulled it down, it was probably down to here. This short on the sides, but I hadn't had a haircut in a while because we were overseas, and I just, I didn't want anybody really messing it up. And I remember I had my first meeting with Stephanie Drewley, and she like literally the first thing she said is, "This how you normally wear it?" And I was kind of like, "Yeah, I mean, it may be a little trim." She's like, "It's tall," and that was it. And I was like, "Got it. I'm vibing. I'm gonna cut it." Still didn't cut it quick enough, but we got there eventually.
We're going to be in year 8 of you guys. Yeah, it's going to be year 8. You guys have been doing this since 2017. You, Cole, and Tom, the great trio. Is anything new coming to the fold this year? Is there anything that we can tease that's going to be part of this? Because you guys nobody's been doing this as a trio in college football longer than you guys have. And I feel like you got to add some sort of new element to it this year. Not just like eating a turkey leg at the state fair or whatever that was, that sausage where you totally didn't become a meme or anything like that. But like we got to add a new element.
Views of some account in Japan too, by the way. Unfortunately, in the changing landscape of college football and budgets, I think it's getting harder to do really entertaining things. Unfortunately, one thing I'm actually excited about, kind of providing insight and getting more insight from coaches on a week-to-week basis, is the in-helmet communication. Because I think the aspect that people aren't realizing is they think, okay, they're going to be able to go faster, less signals. Yeah, and then Ole Miss is going to put on the brakes once you show them the defense, and Lane's going to go, hey, they're in cover 2 right here. Let's change this. And he's going to tell, like, when you have a young quarterback now and you can talk to them, when you go tempo and get the line of scrimmage, you got 10 or 15 seconds to say, okay, you're going to throw to this guy or this guy. They're in this coverage. Like, that's going to be fascinating to kind of see how that evolves and what teams are using it in what way. We're not going to be able to show maybe a ton of that, but I think just giving some of that insight, I think, is interesting and unique.
Could they give you that in-helmet feed?
I would. Well, we do that on like XFL, UFL stuff. The SEC's at the forefront. I think we're going to get to something like that eventually. Probably not the play call aspect of it. I will say when I was in Tampa with Orlovsky and Glennon, I was the third string guy. So at one point I was playing receiver and defense during the week, but I had the in-helmet communication. So I'm playing the dime safety. My roommate, Mike Glennon's the starting quarterback. The first offense is out there, and I hear the play call. I picked it off on one of them, and I got my ass ripped. Because one of the coaches was like, oh, you think you're smart? Like, you think we don't know you know the play? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, my bad. Yeah, sorry.
You're a third-string quarterback playing safety. What the hell do they want you to do?
Picking my boy off because I can hear that. I know exactly where he's throwing because I heard the play. Yeah.
Jeez. All right, let's get you out of here with one more. I'll let you pick. Either I'm not going to ask you to predict the next winner of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. We're not doing that. The winner of the national championship or the Heisman Trophy, you can pick.
I'm going to go Dart winning the Heisman Trophy. And I think that tells me that I think they're going to – I already told you they're going to make a deep run. I don't think Georgia wins the national championship this year. I think their road during the season is tough. I think they slip up somewhere. They're going to be in the conversation for sure. National championship, I think, is really up in the air. I'm not ready to put my name on one team or the other, but I think Jackson wins the Heisman. Carson, I think, is still the best quarterback in the country, but they don't need him to go out and throw for 320 every game. Jackson, I think, is going to need to and be able to throw for 320, 330 every game, put up gaudy numbers, and based on their schedule and kind of what we talked about, I think if they're sitting at 11-1 and making a playoff run, like, he's going to be right in it.
The Lane cockiness, if that happens, we think we've seen it.
Oh, no. It's going to be on another level. Just the subtle cockiness is what I love about it, because I'd probably be the same way.
I don't blame you. Jordan, this has been great.
Yeah,
Appreciate it as always, man. Thank you.
Yeah.